Whether it sells or whether it doesn't, whether it's popular or whether it isn't, I felt like not going to at least Starrcade would be doing a disservice to the series I've been doing on the channel about WCW in the tail end of 1997. But the main selling point of WCW Starrcade 1997 was the match of the century. The match that has been being built up since Fall Brawl 1996. Sting versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan. And seeing the build for this match, you have to applaud the build up and the creation of anticipation by WCW to see Hulk Hogan and Sting compete for the very first time in over a year. But in my opinion, though this gave me the this and seeing the build up of Taz versus Sabu, it gave me the excitement of wanting to put together my own year-long feud. But in the process of doing that, I learned how difficult it is to do so and keep not just, well, keep yourself interested because I'm the audience when I'm doing it, in GM career or TEW, but the fact is, I firmly believe, and you can roast me in the comment section if you do feel necessary, that I firmly believe that a year-long feud is difficult to do now. And somebody could say, "Oh, well, what about the bloodline?" The bloodline the bloodline coming apart was not a year-long feud. It was, subtlety built in. And, now the bloodline is the exception, not the rule. I guess is the what I'm saying. Because when was the last time a feud like this actually took place where it kept you interested throughout the entirety of it? You know what I mean? That's the part that I that's the part that I have to grasp and wonder what is exactly going on with, like, would a year-long feud be able to work under the right circumstances? I don't know, because the attention spans of people today isn't what it used to be. The hunger for content isn't what it used to be. It used to be if you could give people the tease, it would just build up anticipation and not have people criticize the way you booked on social media. But either way, let's dissect Starrcade 1997. Um, so, looking at Starrcade 1997 as I was skimming through some description to get a little background, Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko, Goldberg and Mongo, and Sting and Hogan are the only three matches that were previously booked for this show that I would actually keep. Um, the reason is there's a better way to go. And in my opinion, it's also where if the plan all along was for the NWO to split into two factions, in 1998 and to start building toward the New World Order, the Black and White and the Wolfpack, then you gotta keep building on the tension. You gotta keep building on the fracture. The fracture's gotta keep getting worse within the ranks of the New World Order. And the fact of the matter is, that's why I would have scrapped Disco's title reign as World Television Champion and kept the belt on Saturn and had Saturn versus. Okay, fine, I'd probably keep Saturn versus Benoit and have Saturn get a big victory because Saturn, I believe, I want to say in 1998, goes into his feud with Goldberg as Goldberg ends up feuding with Raven for a little bit. Well, for Raven to become. Well, I don't think he feuds with Raven. I think he just feuds with the Flock. And then takes the U.S. title off of Raven. So, getting Saturn some momentum, it would not leave him so high and dry when Goldberg does defeat him if he has some momentum heading into that. I would still let Saturn be the one that drops the belt to Booker T at the end of the year, but I wouldn't have Saturn drop the belt to Disco Inferno. Actually, he would drop the belt to Booker T tomorrow. And I would just give Saturn a big win on pay-per-view against Benoit. Goldberg and Mongo would stay in their spot. But the biggest change, I would have to say, is either Dallas Page being out of the U.S. title match or the six-man tag team match. Because also Larry Zbyszko's match with Eric Bischoff is out. Instead, you have Randy Savage, Scott Norton, Scott Hall, and Buff Bagwell against the Steiners, Lex Luger, and Larry Zbyszko. 8-man tag team match. WCW versus the NWO, and WCW gets the win, defeating the NWO in an 8-man tag, and Zbyszko still gets his title, still gets his match, but we don't have to see an 11-minute match between two non-wrestlers. And in disqualification, by the way. Also, you have to ask, well, what happens to Bret Hart? We'll get to it. Because I know the standing of the Flock. Well, I was gonna put somebody from the Flock in a match, but actually, replacing if we want to keep going down the road with number 5, replacing Buff Bagwell and Lex Luger would be Diamond Dallas Page versus Lord Steven Regal, because you have a cocky heel trying to silence the momentum of Diamond Dallas Page, but it also gets DDP on pay-per-view, it also keeps his momentum going, and it gives him a solid win against a good in-ring competitor in Steven Regal, because if anybody could get a good match out of Dallas Page, it's Steven Regal. Not saying that Dallas Page does not put together good matches, but somebody that could give him a credible, hard-hitting affair, sort of the likes of what you saw with him and Macho Man. Steven Regal will get him a good technical... It will test his technical prowess, but it would also give Dallas a solid match for pay-per-view, is what I'm saying. Number 6, Curt Hennig stays in that match with Ric Flair, as Ric Flair finally gets his revenge on Curt Hennig for stabbing him in the back and embarrassing him at Fall Brawl by turning his back on the Horsemen and joining the New World Order. Flair finally gets his revenge on Curt Hennig. The spot for number 7, part of me wants to give it to the Cruiserweights because it would be something different than what we've been seeing. But instead, I'm going to give it to somebody who was supposed to, as far as I know, have a match at this show. Was the Giant. But due to circumstances outside of his control, the match was canceled. So the Giant still challenges Kevin Nash for the match that had been built up, and that with Kevin Nash costing the Giant in World War III, the fact of the matter is, you would have figured that the match would have happened tonight at Starrcade, but Vincent interrupts. Vincent interrupts, and instead of Scott Hall being the one that gets squashed by the Giant, Vincent is the one that gets squashed by the Giant because that's what he's there for. And also, he's the only one that was not a part of a previous match that was an active wrestler, because I think at this point, if I'm right, Six is injured with the injury that would actually end his WCW tenure. And I don't really think that there is any like lackey meant to take falls for the NWO left outside of Vincent. So that's where Vincent gets thrown in against the Giant. Because also, the anticipation at this point is left on the main event. Not to say that the anticipation is not there for a Giant versus Kevin Nash match, but the anticipation is there for Sting versus Hogan. And as I mentioned, what happened to Bret Hart? If Bret Hart is not the special referee for Zbyszko versus Bischoff, it is announced a couple of weeks beforehand on Nitro that Bret the Hitman Hart, it is announced by J.J. Dillon that to make sure that there is a decisive finish, that we get the match called right down the middle, and we do have a winner and a loser in the World Heavyweight Championship match. It will be Sting versus Hogan for the WCW title with Bret the Hitman Hart as the special guest referee. I know that there are some people out there that would say Bret should have a match at the biggest pay-per-view, but the fact of the matter is, Bret Hart having a match at the biggest pay-per-view, I'm not 100% sure when Bret Hart was officially able to join WCW, so you're risking rushing building into his first match on pay-per-view in WCW, and you're risking rushing having his momentum stunted because of limited ability to limited appearances and not having the opportunity to properly build up his first match. So I'm saying put his first match off until sold out, and then you also have the opportunity to infuse Bret Hart immediately into the world title picture, which is where he should be, in my opinion, instead of putting him a step down and putting him in a match with two non-wrestlers. So Bret Hart is the referee to block the possibility of the NWO buying off, for the NWO buying off the official, like they did with Nick Patrick in the past. But the fact of the matter is, this match needs to end in a decisive finish, because the people are not paying to see Hogan win. They are paying to see Sting win, and the NWO finally see a crack in the foundation, finally see something go wrong for the New World Order. And the fact of the matter is, if, again, as I said, I'll say it until I'm blue in the face, if the plan is for the Wolfpack next year, then start the year where doubt is being cast on the leadership quality of Hollywood Hulk Hogan, with Hogan losing to Sting. And I know this is where you see it. Hogan and Sting still lost to Hogan, but anybody knows how this match went. This match needs to end in a decisive finish, and with Bret Hart as the referee, there is no question in my mind that this match will end in a decisive finish. With that being said, let's go back, start from scratch. What do I think this card should look? How do I think this card should look? Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko should open. Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko should open. And then we move to the World Television title match between Saturn and Benoit in the second match. Goldberg Mongo stays in the third spot. This 6-man tag team match becomes an 8-man tag team match with Savage, Scott Hall, Scott Norton, and Buff Bagwell against the Steiners, Larry Zbyszko, and Lex Luger, with WCW getting the win. Match 4 I would give to Diamond Dallas Page against sorry, that's not what I said. Match 4 I would give... I don't remember exactly. I mean, I felt like... I think I skipped match 4. I think I cut match 4. But honestly, we could probably give match 4 to Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman. You know, have the Flock jump in. Kidman's in the Flock by now. Give us a taste of what to expect down the line with Kidman and Mysterio. I remember this match. It would be Diamond Dallas Page versus... You know what? Actually... Wait. Yeah, Diamond Dallas Page versus Lord Steven Regal in match 5. Ric Flair versus Kurt Hennig in match 6. DDP beats Lord Steven. Flair finally gets his revenge on Kurt Hennig. Match 7 is sort of a match, but not really, with Vincent and the Giant. And then match 8 is Sting versus Hogan with the guest referee, Bret the Hitman Hart. Let me know down in the comment section below, number 1, if you like this breakdown of Starrcade, if you like this breakdown of WCW pay-per-views, and you want me to continue into 1998 with Sold Out, let me know down in the comment section below. Or you can also let me know by getting the views, let's say past 10, to let me know that you want me to continue. Because right now, even though I could continue and I'm enjoying this series, I will only continue if it's something that you guys want me to continue with, and not, just keep going for the sake of keeping going. But with that being said, I am done for the day, and I will see you in the next one.